Sir.
Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Unapologetically Black, Never Broken, Always Empowered. I'm here with my awesome co-hosts, Rich and Ashley. How y'all doing today?
Ashley today. What's good?
And we have our phenomenal guests, Michelle and Zoe. How are y'all today?
Good. How are you?
Can't complain. So we start every episode off with a mental health check. So we're going to go with you, Brittany, first.
Oh, me? I had a long day, guys. So, next week we're going on a road trip for my sister's wedding. I'm trying to get the truck together. I know I needed to get the brakes fixed. So I go get the brakes fixed. I'd already purchased brake pads. This is kind of a long story. I'm not going to hold you. I already purchased brake pads. I went up there. The guy's like, these are the wrong brake pads. So I walk over to the nearest AutoZone. I switch them out for the right. Well, no, I try to, but they don't have the right ones. So I return them. And then the mechanic let me drive his car to the next place. I got the brakes, came back. He fixed the brakes and he looked at the back brakes and he's like, oh, no, you need back brakes too. And the rotors or whatever, you need those as well.
Damn.
Oh, then I went back. So then I went to drive my car. He lets me drive my car, but he didn't tell me, or I didn't hear him tell me to pump the brake first. So I put it in reverse and the car just fucking goes. Like the brakes aren't working because I didn't pump them. So I'm trying to push the brake. Like Ryan's in the backseat of the car. We're rolling downhill towards the fucking street. I'm trying to turn the wheel. So I ended up hitting another car. And that's what stopped it. Yeah. Everybody was real chill about it. I was shaking and they're like, it's okay. It's fine. They're like, after.
That's not.
They did not care. So anyways, I ended up going and getting the rest of the parts. I spent $500, but our car is ready to road trip it to Michigan next week. The end.
All right. Rich, keep going.
Well, compared to that shit, my day is lovely. I'm good, man. Came out, Archie, except from 180 Life came out. Shout out to my boy Arch. Came out, did some photo shoots for the company. We're gonna put those up on the website real soon. Throwing out some more letters for people that need credit repair done. Throwing out some more letters. Other than that, I'm Gucci. Normal day. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain. Very uneventful day. Excited for this weekend. I'm going to Chicago, so preparing for that.
That's what's up.
Well, make sure you wear your vest. Make sure y'all good down there.
It'll be fine.
Not your best.
Make sure we good out there. You know how they like. You know how they do. Come on, we ain't gotta act brand new.
I'm dead. You got real serious.
Right.
Yeah,
I'll be fine.
Michelle's a big girl. She got this.
Right.
It's gonna be fun. And Zoe, how are you feeling? How's your week going?
Well, week is going pretty great. Just working and school. So yeah, that's pretty uneventful.
I feel that.
That's good. They say no news is good news. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, but for the most part, boring is good. People like boring.
Facts. Last but not least, Trey, how you been?
Oh, we didn't already ask you?
My day has been super basic today. Actually, it was really chill day outside of a couple of people having frustrating times at work for some reason. I don't know. It's some really crazy energy going on for this Wednesday. But for me, I was happy. So I had a nice relaxing day.
Take some Adderall before you jumped on my boy. Live?
No, I had some sleep, my nigga. That's what I had.
Oh, that's what it is. My boy, live as hell. How he
That's hilarious. But today's episode is about activism, just the movements getting out into the world and fighting for our rights and what we believe in. Essentially, it's to wrap up the month. So we're super excited to have both Michelle and Zoe here with us. So I'm going to let you guys start off and just introduce yourself and I guess what this topic, how that relates to you, what it means to you, I should say. And I honestly don't care who goes first. Okay, well, Michelle. Okay, Zoe.
Zoe. Hi everyone. Again, my name is Zoe. based in, well, I was born in Atlanta. I live kind of in South Georgia now. I live in the middle of nowhere, which kind of sucks. But I've been organizing for about 3 years now. I just turned 21 earlier this year. So I've been organizing for about 3 years now, but I have like deep family roots in organizing work. My grandmother was an organizer, and author and professor back in the 70s and 80s. So I kind of have a little bit of like ground, like a little bit of a foundation in movement work. But I've been working with multiple organizations across the 3 years. I've been doing a lot of work here in Atlanta. I also did a lot of work in Louisville, Kentucky. And yeah, I'm really focused on pretty much expanding what my organizing and activism looks like. I know, but now kind of expanding what it looks like to be an organizer. Yeah, that's kind of my background.
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Got a young one out here.
Yeah,
y'all like those. Sound like somebody's old uncle.
No young will be doing it. Like I think
hold himself back from saying that.
They have like what 4,000 or 5,000 people out there, right? Like you lit. Like
that's what's up.
I've been organizing since I was a teenager, so it's been about like 15, 16 years now. I'm a product of youth programs, like a lot of youth programs that get you involved in the community, stuff like that. People who really inspire me is like my grandmothers and just the neighborhood that I grew up in to do the work that I do. I've done higher education advocacy, led a few revolts and student demonstrations out here. Started off in like social justice work because the school I went to in Arkansas was a social justice institution. So got a lot of grounding there, did a lot of work and organizing there at the Capitol, things like that. And then came to Atlanta for grad school and just kept doing the work. So I've done like a bit of research. I've done the advocacy. I've been on the ground doing all the things. And so now currently work with in the reproductive justice space at my full-time job, where we do a lot of advocacy and community organizing as well to get people out to not only go vote, but like vote with your interests in mind. Like let's, and also holding people accountable and like really calling people to task to like really show up for us, especially like our community, Black community, because that's who I prioritize in my organizing and the ways in which I show up for my community.
Okay, so I've met quite a few organizers, and the most common thing that I hear is Atlanta, Georgia. So is that kind of like a central ground for a lot of organizers and a lot of activists and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because every time I hear it's Atlanta, I'm like, shit, I might need to go.
Atlanta is popular. It's got a rich legacy of like organizing and activism, and I mean, ain't nothing like organizing in the South. I'll tell you that now. Like compared to like organizing in the Midwest or the North and stuff like that, organizing in the South is the way to go. And honestly, like a lot of traditions like are here. I think what's the saying? I don't know if you remember the saying, Zoe, but like if the way the South goes, so does the rest of the nation. Like in terms of like how we're leading the way, like that's just what it is. But there's a lot of Texas in Atlanta, and like a lot of ways in which people are organized. There's a lot of organizers on the ground. There's a lot of work to be done, and just great opportunities here.
Okay.
So you had mentioned voting, and I actually had a whole separate thing to start this with, but you had mentioned voting, and one of the main things happening in Georgia is kind of like the repealing of voters' rights because it became a blue state in this last election. Essentially, that's like the motivating force behind it. So as far as voters' rights goes and the Black community goes, how are you guys, are you doing anything in the community about it? What are you doing, and how are you kind of tackling that issue in your essential hometown?
You got to hit the ground. You got to talk to people. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, and let people know what their rights are so they can know how to navigate it. So like one thing in particular that a lot of people don't know in Georgia is that if you're a felon, you can still vote. Like if you have a felony on your record, as long as you've like done your time and paid your fines to the state, you can register like anybody else. There's no appeal process, but nobody tells people that. So we'll go to bus stations, we'll go to festivals, we'll talk to people online, wherever it is, just to get them that information. And that's really what the core organizing is just building community. Like you got to talk to people and make sure that you have the correct information and can like show people the way. But like when it comes to voting rights, it's making sure that people just know what their rights are, because it's like real confusing. And I mean, the ways in which they tell us what our rights are in school versus what they actually are like two different stories. And it causes a lot of confusion. And in Georgia in particular, we just, you know, outside of 2020's election, we're just a hot mess because people will wait anywhere from like 2 and somewhere upward to like 10 hours just to go vote. And so it's like ridiculous in terms of how they infringe upon the rights or make it real difficult for people to go vote. So we just try to be there to be a resource, provide resources for folks, and find ways to navigate the system to give them what they need.
So the two don't really correlate for me, but is there a reason why felons can't vote? Like, I don't understand how getting a felony stops people from voting. Is there a reason why that's like that?
Slavery. They're slaves now.
Yeah, that's
we
really
talked about that.
Yeah, it's like slavery in the 13th Amendment, and they really just want to strip people of their rights to make sure they don't vote. It's all, in my mind, my theory is that ever since the 13th Amendment, they use that as a way to disproportionately impact Black people in particular to make sure that we don't have the power to vote.
Yep. The war on drugs led into that, which led into voter suppression.
Right. And I mean, like, police have roots in like slave patrols. So like the history of slave patrols and the connection to policing and like the over policing of the Black community is all interconnected. Because it's like, even when we get slapped with felonies or like even drug charges, like the stats don't lie. Like we don't use drugs more frequently than like white people. It's just that more police are in our communities arresting us.
It, right.
Like, I ain't never met a black person make a meth lab. Not one. Not one.
Big facts. Zero.
He's not wrong.
But I know so many palm colored that have.
You know them?
I mean, not like directly.
Just wondering.
No,
based off of our conversation prior to.
Yeah, I've heard their names from other people.
No, absolutely. So, actually, Michelle, I was going to ask you. Yesterday, you had mentioned the reparations bill, and I said we would talk about it today.
Yeah.
So, putting you on the spot, I probably should have reminded you earlier.
No, it's all good. I'm ready. We like I do this for my full-time job. I'm ready to talk about reparations. So there's actually a number of bills of reparations out there. Like Georgia's got one in their state legislature. There's a few other states. And so does the federal government. The bills essentially would create a committee to study reparations and how to distribute reparations to Black people, but that also includes policy change. So it's expanding the conversation. Like, yes, run me my check, but also like I need you to change the systems that led me to get to this place too. So that's where the conversation is at. So like HR 40, which has been introduced in Congress since I was alive. So like over the last 30 plus years, been introduced every year, was not making traction. But of course, after George Floyd had happened and everything else, Congress made a push to introduce this bill, and they finally voted out of committee in a historic vote like last year. So now the work is getting the House to vote on it and then for it to go over to the Senate. The reason they haven't voted on it though is because of the filibuster, because the filibuster just stops progress. It stops everything. And it's all because these political parties are more interested in like maintaining their seats of power than actually serving the people. So, but that reparations bill would be like lit because it would create a committee of people who start talking about like, how do you make the distinction of who qualifies?
Right.
We're talking about lineage and like the benefit of like even tracking your lineage and what does that mean? Like who all has been directly impacted? Because then we start talking about like Black people who have immigrated to America, and they've also been impacted by racism in this country. So like how are we talking about the distribution of wealth, the redistribution of wealth here and all those things? And so that bill's there. It's there. It could be voted on. It could happen. We could see reparations in our lifetime, which in my mind, I'm like, look,
right.
I mean, this check, like money would help all my people in my community, because I definitely rebuke the phrase that money doesn't buy happiness, because it's like, it's not that it buys happiness, but it definitely buys you comfort. And I want my community to be comfortable.
If we were to get reparations, how do y'all think they should be distributed? Because I believe it should go to the eldest member of the family.
The fuck?
The oldest living. What you mean the fuck?
The fuck? They can't control their own finances. Why would I give them my check?
I'm not.
Answer this question though, Michelle. Go ahead.
I mean, like, I'm gonna say for me, no, like everybody needs to get a check. Like it's not going to the oldest person in my family and this, that, and the other. Especially because like family structures for Black people are a little bit different than like your nuclear household. So like you giving it to my grandma might be a little bit different, or giving it to somebody's grandma might be different, especially if they were raised by like an uncle or aunt or something like that. Like I think we got to like expand that a conversation a bit. But I'm like, we just need to give us the money. Like give us the money, put it in my hand, and don't worry about what I do with it. Just know that you gave it to me. Like,
how much do you think that should be? If we had to ballpark a number, what would you think that number would be?
Honestly, I think we should be getting checks for the rest of our lives. I mean, that's just me. Like it doesn't have to be one solid check, but I feel like you need to be
like a lottery winner.
Oh, so you think like maybe a continuous, like a stimulus check, like a continuous check?
Yeah, you need to be giving me a continuous check, as well as giving me some other benefits. Like I don't understand why I'm paying student loans as a Black person in this country. Like I don't understand why it's so hard to get a house in this country as a Black person. Like no, especially because we ain't got the generational wealth in the same ways that our white counterparts do. That I'm like, no, you can continue to give me a check for the rest of my life and maybe the next generation thereafter until we can really see some really great progress. Because that's what's needed. Like, give me that money. Like, it doesn't have to be one lump sum though. And I'm like, and the
money over time.
That's my thing. They can do it. They have the resources.
Yeah.
Of course, they just don't want to see us on the same level.
Yeah.
Right.
My only issue with the giant lump sum would be, first off, the fact that a lot of Black people aren't financially literate, right? So they'll get it and then essentially fumble the bag because they've never had that much money before in their life, right? If I take somebody who's never had $200,000 before and they don't know how to manage that, they'll be broke again in the next 4 or 5 months, right? Because you can blow through 200,000 like it's nothing, you know. Especially if you're buying things like Gucci bags and cars and other stuff, and you still got debt that you need to pay off. So I think if along with that check should be actual literacy classes for financial literacy that we should all be in about, you know what I'm saying? That we should all learn about to help us make sure we keep that money, not just get it, blow it, get it, blow it, get it, blow it.
I mean, I guess I'd say do what you want to do with your money. Okay, if you want to buy 10,000 Gucci bags, you buy your 10,000 Gucci bags. Like I'm not. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like, why am I about to make it conditional? Like we already been paid for the money. Like we pay for it within the ways that we have to deal with the system. Like just run me the check. And plus, I think the other thing about the lump sum is that like on an economic structure, like that would destabilize the economy so bad. Like that would probably be the fall of capitalism if everybody got a huge lump sum of like $200,000 just to blow. Like there wouldn't be any more U.S. Treasury, and like the economy would just be really messed up. That's another reason why they just need to give it over a lifetime, as well as also giving other breaks and stuff like that, like how we have the reparations in Evanston, Illinois. There's other areas that are like, you know, exploring what reparations looks like on a like local, state, and federal level. Like so, but I mean, the reality is that it needs to come from multiple sources. So like while the federal government might be reckoning with like running checks and doing stuff like that, your state and your cities also had a role in races, policies, and initiatives and things like that they also need to be held accountable for too. And my thing is reparations is about accountability.
Oh, shit, motherfuckers like Mississippi would be buried. Like never have money. They'd be broke the whole time.
Zoe, did you have anything you wanted to add in of your perfect reparations?
I agree with everything Michelle said. I know we've had conversations like this before, especially when it comes to like, we don't need just monetary. It needs to be a systemic change. Like I always tell people, I'm not paying my student loans. I know I said I was going to when I went to school, but that doesn't mean I'm actually going to. They're not getting paid because I got at this point. And I know I got a couple of medical bills on my credit. That's not getting paid either, because I feel like that's something that I deserve is free healthcare. So I always tell my mom's like, Zoe, you gotta. I'm like, no, I don't. Because things that I feel like I'm deserving of, I don't feel like I gotta pay for. So I think free healthcare and free college, and of course helping with like getting homes and being able to have generational wealth and not even generational wealth, but just like having structure that we can give to generations and generations to come is so important. So that's Michelle hit the nail on the head, but that's my 2 cents.
So how do you guys think free healthcare? What do you think that would look like, right? Because I think Canada does have free healthcare, but Canada has free healthcare, and they also have a high as shit fucking tax bill too. So their tax rate is also fucking astronomical. So without paying so high in taxes, what do you think of free, like maybe healthcare or even the first 4 years of college? Because I believe a bachelor should be free. And that you should only pay for a master's or doctorate, like if you want to specialize in something. But how do you guys think that what do you think that would look like? Who do you think that would pay for that, and where would that come from?
I'm gonna say something a little controversial. We have the biggest military in the world.
Ooh, wait.
So I think we'd be able to give the people in our country some health care and free college. We have, I think, over 800 military bases and trillions go into the Pentagon. I think we could figure something out. So that's just we can figure something out.
Let me just say this: as a military veteran, that money doesn't come to us. Now, I will say that that money probably goes to equipment or another country, because we're rebuilding some shit that we blew up over there. So after we blew it up, we have to rebuild it. Why? I don't fucking know. It's just what America does. So I would slightly agree, but like also disagree, because our healthcare is not free. TRICARE you pay for. It's just not expensive. And it's slightly crappy. The VA is free, but the VA is such an inconvenience that I would rather pay to go to a doctor than to continuously go through the VA. So that's why I'm like, okay, I see your point, but no.
Yeah, but your disagreement further proves her point. You just stated y'all have crappy healthcare, and most of that money goes to weapons, which we don't really need, and destruction, which we caused trying to get some shit we didn't need.
Would you feel that same way if the money went to the people in the military?
Yes.
So you would want them to not be paid?
No, what we want is
we would want free health care, and y'all be taken care of at the same time.
But if we take the money from the Pentagon, if we take the money from there and we give it to the American people, then what money do we have to fund the military?
We're not saying take all of it, Rich. Don't be dense. We're just saying we allocate some of the funds.
But obviously, there has to be a finite number where if I take from here, I'm going to hurt or cripple somewhere. I have to take from here to give to something else.
I mean, the biggest thing that might happen is that,
because it's not like an overabundance where like military just has an overabundance of money. It's not
but it's like right now
there's just an overabundance of funding towards the military.
Right. Like, we just trying to be number one. That's really what it is. Like, the U.S. is always going to be the world police and said they got the biggest and baddest weapons, so don't mess with us. What we would have to deal with is that we just wouldn't be number one, which technically we're not when it comes to healthcare, education, housing, and all this other stuff.
We're literally in the bottom half of the world. All that.
Like,
we're not at the bottom half when it comes to military might.
Yeah, no shit.
No, but like everything else.
That's pitiful.
I wouldn't say that's pitiful, because I believe, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some type of reform, but I do believe that the American people have this like sense of security blanket. There's never been a war fought here that came from another country. Not a single one. All the wars.
This one is usually starting them.
I would disagree with that one slightly.
Slightly?
Slightly. It depends. Because America did not start World War II. America did not start World War II. Japan started that shit. We were out of it. Japan just started that shit. They came in and then we ended that motherfucker.
I feel like America just goes around like, I'm not touching you.
And
then wonders why a war breaks out.
Did not join the World War II until 1946. We were, and it had already been going. It started in 1942. We did not join
it. Money though. We were giving
4 years later. That's everyone though. Everyone's
they were distributing money, weapons, the whole 9 yards.
That's still kind of joining the war though, because we're giving them people, weapons, money. Right. So we may not be physically.
We're not physically fighting in a war, but everyone funds a war. Everyone does that.
Yeah,
that's how we make money.
Stabilize countries' political structures. Like we may not have started wars like where the U.S. was involved, but we have started wars all across this world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like, I'm just saying, like the United States is an imperialistic country. Like
yeah, I would agree there, but due to the might of the military. But again, I would rather have a strong military to where wars are not far here, and we take wars over there.
Well, I mean, we can still have a relatively strong military and also have free healthcare and free education. Like my thing
I would disagree. China would definitely disagree with you.
But I think that's oh, go ahead, Michelle.
Oh no, I was gonna say my thing is like we gotta get out of this mindset of scarcity and start talking about abundance. Like the reality is that all these resources already exist. The issue is that we're hoarding it. People are hoarding resources, hoarding money, and doing all these things to set up structures that are essentially scams. Like health insurance in itself is freaking ridiculous. You're telling me that I gotta pay a monthly premium, and these people who are not medical professionals are gonna tell me who I can see, what I can get done, what kind of medication I can get, and how much they're gonna cover, and I still gotta come out of pocket?
On top of that, how long you can be there and how much that's going to cost.
Insurance is insurance is a whole.
That's what I'm saying. So we need free healthcare in order to raise this, because now we're talking about Black maternal mortality, where we're still dying up to 1 year post birth. We're talking about the ways in which medical biases are happening and stuff like that. I mean, if the military could just come up off of maybe $2 trillion, which really is a drop in the bucket to the overall budget, we could fund free college for everyone. And also get a healthcare system for everybody. And Elizabeth Warren drew up that plan leading into the 2020 election. Like, it's really not that, the whole tax argument too isn't even that big of a deal, because people who are making over $1 million some odd dollars will only had to pay 2 cents on every dollar. Like, they can afford 2 cents on every dollar. Give run me your coins so I can get this free healthcare.
Yeah, I'd rather deal with something like that or deal with high taxes than if I break my freaking arm and be terrified to ride in an ambulance.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't have to be afraid to go broke to go to the hospital and get taken care of.
I mean, that's true. That is 1,000%. I agree.
And I was gonna say that's the type of game that they play, is that, well, if we do this, then we can't do this. And if we do this, then we can't do that. Like, everybody can eat. There's so much food on the table. We can put literally food on every single plate. And that's the type of game that they like to play, that, oh, we don't have enough to do that. Yes, you do. Because then you prove it. When you approve this bill, or when you approve sending money here, or when you approve sending money there, when you approve increasing this budget here, you show us you have the money. You just want to hoard it. So it's possible. Like, I think that we have to get out of that. If we eat, then this person or whatever can't eat too. Like, there's so much abundance. Everybody can eat, and everybody can have free healthcare, and everybody can go to college for free, and everybody can get a house. It's possible. It's literally possible.
And circling back to the reparations point, they proved during COVID, they could easily generate the funds. They had millions just shell out like that. But they keep telling us we don't have it.
They came with tax raises.
Yeah, no shit. I'm just saying they had
it. Then it's not having it already if they're making you pay for it.
No, but they're choosing to make us pay.
You don't have it.
Well. They're also choosing.
But those tax raises weren't all just for that money. Like, those tax raises were also to pay for the military, was also to pay for the public health crisis, because Trump gutted the public health system
because that's where most of the funding goes, Rich, whether you like it or not.
That money to build up that system again. Like, the idea that taxes were raised solely because of COVID relief isn't enough. Because my thing is, first of all, they only gave us all together, 1,800,
like 2 years,
right? Like, what did that do? You paid more in taxes than what you got in your state.
Not only that, but we were sending money to other countries to help them and their people get monthly.
Oh yeah, no, I would disagree with that. I would definitely.
They were getting money every month off of our back.
Yeah.
Like, we were
definitely disagree with that pot. Yeah, we should definitely take care of our people first.
Yeah. So
America ain't never been about that.
So, switching up a bit and going back to just your careers as organizers, what is the largest event you've organized, and what's the most exciting one? And they may or may not be the same. And we'll start with Zoe, because Michelle's been doing a lot of talking, girl.
Oh no, it's okay, it's totally okay. I did a protest about 2 years ago. Like it was 2020, and I want to say it was like over 5,000 people. But the numbers always change because I saw somebody say 10,000 and I saw somebody else say 5,000. But all I know is that my cousin called me during it. It was like, Zoe, there's so many people out there. So that was I had teamed up with a couple of people. Literally, I met them on social media because it was like we were kind of seeing a little bit of uprisings. But then I was like, we're literally in Atlanta and nothing's planned. Like we are literally, they call it like the Black Mecca. So I was like, what's happening here? So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna organize something with some people I just met. And that was the start of like my organizing. And then I guess this really shouldn't be exciting, but it was for me. I was doing a lot of organizing in Louisville, Kentucky. And I got arrested while I was in Louisville, Kentucky. That wasn't exciting, but the people I got arrested with made it exciting for me because I was literally in a holding cell with like 20 other people who like we all comforted each other, talked to each other throughout the entire time. So it was really beautiful to see people from all walks of life being able to come together for like a common cause. So that was the most exciting, just to be in community with people I never thought I could be in community with. But yeah.
Were both of those Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, the first one, was a protest. I started because of Breonna Taylor, and then I was invited to go to Louisville, Kentucky, of course, to continue to fight for Breonna Taylor.
And why did they throw y'all in jail?
Because we knew it was gonna happen because it was technically illegal, but we were on Daniel Cameron's, the Attorney General, on his front lawn, and the police told us to move. We didn't move.
Oh, you got arrested for
trespassing, disorderly conduct, which I didn't understand because I was just sitting there. Disorderly conduct and intimidation of a person in a legal process. Those are my 3 charges that I got.
Oh, so that was y'all. Respect.
All expunged though, so I don't have a record. My mom made me triple check on that. So all good on that end. But yeah.
And Michelle, same question.
The first one was after the verdict from the grand jury in the Michael Brown case back in 2014. Got a group of it first started with a few hundred folks who were at first organizing in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri. And I was like, what we doing here? Let's go march on the plaza, which is historically known for being a really white area and crosses what used to be a historically red line district. And so that was intense. We was met with 50 horsemen. People got trampled on. Right? It was a very weird time. A lot of lessons learned. Okay, but that was my first time really being on the ground doing that kind of work. And then something that was really exciting that we organized was around the abortion ban here in Georgia. So that bill that went into effect, the 6-week ban and the personhood thing. We did a lot of work trying to fight that when it first was going through the state legislature back in 2019. I was working with a dope coalition of other organizers, and we had hundreds of people up here. We were staking out the Capitol, holding up seats and all of this stuff. It was insane, the energy and stuff like that. And there was so many police out there involved, but I was just really proud of the organizers who were able to get it together. We was trying to get these people in line, get people to pack out the room, getting testimonies together. We were on the ropes. The ropes is a place where you can call out legislators from the floor and basically talk to them face to face. And so that stretched over for about a course of almost 4 months that we were doing that. And so it was great. The energy was great though. So
I have more of a, I guess, controversial question, right? Whose
method
do you believe is more efficient? Martin Luther King's or Malcolm X's? Because I know they were trying to achieve the same thing, but I believe that they had 2 different philosophies and 2 different ways of living.
I think both methods are equally important. I think everybody has a lane in liberation. And just because your lane may differ from mine doesn't mean that it's any like it doesn't mean that it's not accurate, or doesn't mean that it's not right, or doesn't mean that it's just a different lane than mine. And it's cool because we all have the same common goal, and that's Black liberation. So whatever you want to do, go do it over there, and I'll do mine over here, and we won't cross paths. And it's cool.
So you believe that they're equally as effective?
Mm-hmm. I think everybody has a role in this, and I can't tell you if they both were alive who would have made it further, because we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We literally don't know. But I know for me what I agree with, and I know for them what they agree, and just leave it at that, because we all have the same common goal. It's not a race. We all can work together to figure it out.
Like, I agree. The analogy I always use is that like movement work and activism, it's like a pot of boiling water. You know, it's not like a linear process or like one pathway or like one route to Walmart kind of thing. It's like multiple people trying to do all different types of things at the same time until somebody breaks the surface. And once they do, all the other bubbles start breaking the surface too. And I think that, like, especially as you start looking at MLK and Malcolm X as they died, their politics drastically changed. Like yes. Martin Luther King during the Vietnam War, and like what he was saying there, and talking about how he like thought he integrated his people into a burning house, talking about the state in which the country was in. We start talking about Malcolm X, where he like tempered himself down and started apologizing for stuff and started looking at an international route to connect people across the diaspora and appeal to the UN. I think they both are really important people in the legacies that we have for activism as a Black community. And, a lot, like one part of them is very much popularized. Like, I get tired of hearing MLK's "I Have a Dream" speech. We get it. Like, we all got dreams. Like,
and he has said so much, like, more important stuff to me.
Right.
Like, "I Have a Dream" speech was wonderful, of course, but like, he was also anti-capitalist. Like, there's a lot more to MLK than there is than just that speech.
And absolutely, but you know how white America only wanted to teach us specifically that part. Mm-hmm. You know, he was nonviolent. He said, "I have a dream, have, all colors work together, blah, blah, blah." That's all they wanted us to know.
Yeah, it's to pacify us.
They only said the nonviolent part because they ain't what they asked for. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You should be nonviolent like Martin Luther King. Nah, you should come outside and catch this fade with me, bro. That's what you should do. Come on, walk.
And they always fail to mention, at least nowadays, that the nonviolent ones had more violence taken out on them.
Yeah.
I just because I've listened to people, and it sounds weird, but I've listened to people like Killer Mike when he talks about activism in Atlanta. I'm not saying that he's the mouth of Atlanta. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've listened to him speak. I've listened like Candace Owens speak. I'm not saying that they are the mouth of Atlanta. That's who I listen to. Those they I relate more to them. That really Candace Owens. Me and her have like this whole love-hate thing. And then like T.I., I relate to T.I. So when he talk, I listen. Not saying that he right. Just saying when he talk, I listen.
Good job cleaning that up, because you almost got put on probation again.
That was 3 crazy people to bring up. I was holding my breath.
I listen. I know I'm not a historian, right? I just know modern day shit, and that's who I hear it from.
Okay. I was just
like,
who's next?
Capitalists. Oh gosh.
All of them are capitalists?
The Killer Mike and T.I. for sure.
Okay.
Like when they be going in here talking to like these politicians, talking about that they're here for the Black community, half the time they really be talking about how they can line their own pockets and protect their money. Like they also be trying to like sell this thing of like, oh, we're gonna work together, and like I know these politicians and stuff like that, but they really don't be like working for like the most marginalized out here. They don't be working for the poor Black folks out here.
I knew it. When T.I. called us Wakanda, I was like, yeah, that's it. I don't want to hear nothing else, T.I. Nothing else.
That's hilarious.
Nothing else.
Okay.
Basically, they don't make celeb activists like Michael Jackson anymore.
I'm not saying that I'm just saying that's what I hear. That's what I.
No, I mean, like this is because like so Killer Mike in particular, like he be trying. Let me put it like that. Like these celebs, they be trying, but the issue is that they just don't talk to the experts in the room.
It comes off disingenuous.
Right. They think that they know what is the best for everybody instead of just talking to the people who are actively doing the work or people who are actively talking to community members. Like, I think the thing about our work is that like we actively talk to community members all the time about like the issues that matter most to them. It's
Do
not
you
about
believe that most celebrities are too far removed from actual problems of Black people for them to give a valid input?
I think it depends on the person.
Okay. Yeah, and also they're still,
because I would argue Kanye West is definitely removed from anything normal from Black people.
Kanye is a terrible example.
I wouldn't even say that, to be honest, because he is a Black man that is going through mental challenge, and we see and mental health challenges, and we see the amount of grace that he gets versus other people who are not Black men. But I mean, but of course he's also rich. He's also, is he a billionaire now?
Yeah, Kanye been a billionaire.
Yeah, he's also like a capitalist. So it's those two things, but he also is still a Black man who goes through mental health challenges, and we see it literally. So
yeah, but that grace is really only extended to him because people are still giving him that, like his whole mom died thing. Like we understand his mom passed, but he's been given far too many passes because of that.
Yeah, he's bipolar.
He wasn't given a pass when he said slavery was a choice. Motherfuckers destroyed Kanye for that.
I did not.
He was not given a pass for that.
He was given a pass.
And he tried to walk it back. He wasn't given a pass when he came in wearing the manga hat. He wasn't given a pass for that.
I think it's about a question about what people are doing with their platforms. Like
you pick two things out of all the other crap he did.
I'm just telling you that he doesn't always get a pass.
And it does.
The majority wins. He does get a pass for most of his BS.
Yeah. Yeah. It does depend on the celebrity though, because I know like No Name, I love her. She definitely uses her platform to talk about things a lot of celebrities are scared to talk about.
Kendrick Lamar, perfect example. He started his career off that way and kept it that way.
Right.
I don't really know.
I think it depends on how people are using their platforms. Because some of these celebrities, they're like, there's been some celebrities who do reach out to like organizations that like we work with, and others who will like say, "Hey, what do you need me to say? What do you need me to do to help get this out?" And I love folks who do that because it's like, it's okay to say that you don't know it and that we could work together, especially when you got platforms that could really help people, elevate the conversation. Because it's all about building community. It's not about centering yourself. And I think that's the distinction. So like even when, what was that, back in like in the height of the 2020 election when Ice Cube came out with his 9-point plan that was already in the platform of the Democratic Party and was mad because they wouldn't take an audience. And it was like, dude, like if you would have been talking to the people who were already here and you're trying to like jump in here in the last minute, like we already had, this was already going, like this was already happening. Mm-hmm. But instead, you want to center yourself in this conversation, make it seem like you're saving the Black community, that you're taking this on. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Like, there's enough work, and there are people who are trained, who we do this stuff, not new to this, true to this. Like, here we are. And like, let's just reach out and like build on what it's got going on. But I think it's just about that. But I don't think it's that they're too far removed to like experience Black problems though, like to those.
Oh no, not Black problems. But I mean, obviously there's just certain things that they wouldn't be able to relate to. You know what I'm saying? At least so far into their career. Like, Chris Brown has been rich since he was like fucking 14. So I would argue that he doesn't understand what it means to be broke. He's been rich since he was 14, but he understands other Black issues. So that's what I mean. Like sometimes they might just be so far removed from certain things.
I mean, Malcolm X talks about that and how we shouldn't make like celebrities like political figures, and understanding that, because I mean, I'm not going to go to Killer Mike and T.I. when it comes to stuff that's happening on like the west side or stuff that's happening on the south. I'm not going to them because they live in Sandy Springs and like in all these different, like I'm not going to them about that. They're not political figures, they're rappers. Not saying that they can't be involved with community, of course not, because they should always go back to community, but you're not in your community. And that's the whole thing. When you're talking about wanting to speak for community, you have to be in community. And these people do not live in these places. Now, I'm not saying that they may not visit, they may not go see their auntie or their grandma or whatever, but you're not living in these places. We've all seen T.I.'s house. We've all seen it. That junk is huge. All right. And it's nowhere near what people go through like on the south side and things like that. So That's all it is. It's just not, we shouldn't put these celebrities on pedestals as political figures, because they're not that, and they're not. They can be community organizers, because I don't want to downplay some of the stuff that they do, but they're not. You don't look to them when it comes to where we need to go for liberation, because they're also capitalists, and capitalism is not going to save us.
So how do we get the masses to change their view on that, right? Because their platform is so broad when it comes to being a celebrity. How do we get the masses to be like, okay, instead of trying to figure out or listen to what Kim Kardashian said, I need to instead listen to what, or listen to and start learning from so and so over here.
It's up to them to say that. Like, don't listen to me. Go listen to that girl over there on MLK. Like, they need to tell people, don't come, because when they start answering questions and stuff, they act like that's all the answer is. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay not to know. It's okay. That's when you go and be like, well, I know a perfect organizer from Atlanta, Georgia, or from Riverdale or whatever, and be like, I really think y'all should be going and talking to them, using their platforms to uplift actual people who are on the grounds every single day and who do this and are not, rappers, singers, influencers, things like people who are actually on the work and doing the work.
And I think to add on that, it just starts with building relationships too. Like, a core part of like my activism is that like I just talk to people. And I build trust with them, and I make myself a trusted source. Like, I tell people it was an undergrad that like my mentor at the time introduced me to the term like scholar activist, right? And I was like, if I got to go into like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, like I don't feel like people should have to go and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn more about their political system. Like, let me go on and do that, and I'll bring you the information. Like, I'll take that L on the student loans, bring that to my community. But you got to build trust to do that. So sometimes that means that like I've had to like sit out in like 100-degree weather heat at the bus station with people, and I'd be like, hey, you want to get registered to vote with me? And they'd be looking at me like ignoring me or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Just strike up a conversation. I'd be there for like 6 weeks. And eventually they'd be like, you know what? You here all the time. Let me talk to you. Like, let's talk. Like, and I've had people like that. And they'd be like, okay, like whatever. And we'll start talking about like what's going on in the city. What's up with them? What do they care about? And then after a while, they're like, okay, like I see what you're talking about. Like, let's do some work together. Like, I'm interested in getting involved. Like, I'm interested in doing something. And I think that, having conversations like this, like the platform that you all are building and like other platforms are also really important about having those conversations so people can have like what I call political homes, like political and organizing activist homes where you can come and talk to your people. It's not like you're being judged. Because that's the other thing. Like, when people come talk to me, like, I'm not coming for you because you don't know something. It's okay. Like, I'm also on like a forever journey of unlearning and learning over here too. So I don't know. I think it's like when we talk about like the masses and trying to get them away from them, it's also about like on us about how we also continue to elevate and just also check people too. Like, that's why I was like, when, Kanye comes out and says crazy stuff about slavery, call him out, drag him. I'm always down for a good social media drag, a Twitter drag. Like,
so as a community, just as Black people as a whole, what do you guys feel like we should be focused on? What should we be trying to change? Prioritize the best you can. And, what are our goals? What are we working towards from your point of view? I know it's a large question.
It is.
The first thing that came to my mind is that everyone is an activist in their own right, especially when you're very determined for Black liberation and you really care about it. But you have to understand with your activism, it can't be activism for just one group of like you have to be able to organize around disabled Black people, queer Black people, non-binary Black people, poor Black people. Like, you have to understand there's so many different intersections when it comes to being Black, and knowing that you have to fight for all Black people, regardless if you may agree with their lifestyle or you may not see them as quote unquote worthy or whatever it could be. These people are still Black, and you should still want to be able to fight for them regardless of their background or their other marginalized identities. So I think that's the first step, because we can never get on an even like playing field to even fight for liberation if we all can't even talk to each other, let alone like respect one another. So that's my like first, that's the first thing, that's the first step in my opinion, because I feel like we're too divided. There's so many things. There's sexism, there's homophobia, there's transphobia, there's classism, like elitism, there's so many isms, colorism, texturism, so many other things, so many isms. But once we're on like we understand like we all Black and we just want freedom. I think, and we should respect people regardless of any identity that they may have. We'll be able to finally get on that road to liberation.
Yeah. Like that's the goal. That's my ultimate goal, is liberation for all my people. And I agree with everything that Zoe said, because it's really about making sure that, especially as a community, is that we can hold each other and know that like we can show up for everyone. And that's what it takes to build community. Like I think about, when people talk about the Montgomery Bus Boycott, like I always use that as an example. It was like over a year long. And what was so great about it was that they organized it, but the ways in which community showed up for everyone is really what's at the heart of it. And we just need to get back to that. Because I mean, folks was, if they had a car, they were carpooling, they were picking up people who needed rides. If they didn't have a car, but they were a stay-at-home person, they were cooking food or having water out for the walkers and stuff like that. Like it takes a community to really like do that. And I think in terms of that priority, what Zoe said, is really just building that community and knowing that like it's not a race. It's not like, oh, if we only organize for Black men right now, then the day will come for Black women, and then the day will come for this person. Like it's not that at all. Like we could just all work together to seek collective liberation for all our folks.
We can all eat.
Yeah,
we can all eat. There's enough food for all of us to eat.
Absolutely. All right. Well, ladies, I just want to take the time to thank you for taking time out of your evening and to speak with us. Keep up the good work. You guys are out here killing it. Appreciate it. I will say that as a parent, I have come into a stage in my life where it's like I want to be out there and I can't. So I will ask you guys, what would you say to people who just cannot be physically in the movement as much as they would want to?
Educating the people around you. That's really the first step. My brother, I have two younger brothers. One is 19 and the other one is 13. And they constantly call me, asking me questions about everything. And even like literally just before we got on here, I was on the phone with my brother. Because even I'm not endorsing any candidates, but Herschel Walker is kind of leading Warnock, and me and my brother were talking about it. He was like, I just don't understand. And Herschel Walker's out here giving out gas cards. And I'm like, I'm not even mad at it. So like having those with me and him, because I literally just was able to get my brother registered to vote. So he was like, that's one less vote less taken away from him. So I'm feeling happy about it. That's what my brother was saying. But having those conversations like with your family, with your children, about what that means, because it all starts at home. My grandmother has this amazing quote: revolution begins in the self with the self. So you have to start here before you can go out and organize in the streets. You got to start at home. So being able to, we all have internalized misogyny, fat folk, like all of these different things. And once we can able to break those chains that we have in us, we can able to go out and organize with our community. And that's doing it. Educating yourself and others is organizing in your community.
No, I agree. I think taking care of yourself is organizing in your community, especially in a country that seeks to like destabilize our quality of life, that seeks to kill us or harm us or do us violence. Like the fact that like Black people still exist in this country is a sign of our resiliency. And if all that you are doing right now is raising a family and making it by, you are still a part of the resistance. Like that's just what it is. Like activism doesn't have to be just being in the street. Like we got to expand what that looks like and how people are showing up. Sometimes activism means just showing up to a parent-teacher conference and having a meeting with your superintendent about like why they need to change some kind of policy in your school district, or writing a letter, or, you know, if you want to do something like that, or just sharing a post on social media. Like, I think, you know, there's various ways that people can get involved that doesn't involve like hitting the streets. But also too, if you ever want to hit the streets, there are safe ways to do it. I think it's a matter of being educated. I use the red light, green light system. Red light meaning like if you cannot get arrested at all, there's a certain way in which you would go out, like, hey, I got kids, this stuff that, you know, there's a certain way that you would go out there. Whereas if you're a green light, you're ready to get arrested, you would show up differently and would not show up with red light people to do that kind of stuff. So that's why I was like, it's all a matter of just like, you know, finding where your niche is and, you know, being okay with that. But I mean, I'm always about like, especially for Black folks, like taking care of yourself, you know, learning, sharing the information. That's it. Like, you know, and just continuing to build community. Like every time that you decide to help somebody in your community, whether it's on an individual level or a group level, like you part of the movement. You part of like creating change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right. Right. Well, like I said, thank you ladies so much for joining us. Our next time you'll see us is hopefully on Saturday. I don't know if I'll have Wi-Fi though. We'll talk. We'll figure this out.
Is it me and Brad on Saturday?
Is
it me and Brad on Saturday?
No, it's supposed to be me and you, but I moved tomorrow and my files doesn't transfer and I have to figure out who we're going to go with. And if I can.
Saturday's going to be ignorant either way.
I mean, true. Anywho, but until Saturday, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay unapologetically Black. Have a good night, y'all.
Gang.